Hello everybody and welcome to this week's bonus podcast. I'm so excited about this one. I don't really know why. It's just a lot of fun. This week we are proud to welcome you to the Bobbins Awards of 2021. Hello, I am Michael.
I'm Gemma.
Are you excited about doing some Bobbins chat tonight, Gemma?
You sound excited enough.
I'm dead excited. I am. I love the Bobbins Awards. This is like, how many years we've been doing this now? 3, 4, 5? I just think it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of silly fun. And if this is the first one that you have ever experienced, it's basically just a time for us to slag off. This seems like such a negative term. Criticise? Diss?
Throw
make
shade
fun
on.
of Coronation Street.
Rip
our
them to
favourite
pieces.
programme.
Is it our favourite programme?
We don't do a podcast about any other programme.
I don't even think of it as a programme. It's a way of life.
It is. We are just taking a mick out of our way of life, and we really love Coronation Street, really. So that's our disclaimer. But this
is like how you take the mick out of your sister, but if
Yes.
somebody else did it who wasn't in your family, you'd beat them up behind the bike sheds.
Yeah,
is
like
that what
if,
people do?
if Watford
back
Weekly
then?
were slagging off Coronation Street for an
We'd
hour
have to
or
fight
two,
them, wouldn't we?
we'd give them a good old scrap outside
Would you
the
reckon?
Queen Vic.
Who would win? It wouldn't be us.
Maybe not, but we can do it, and nobody knows where we live, so you can't come and beat us up either. But anyway,
that's a good point.
Hopefully, I was just having a look at last year's Bobbins Awards, and it was like 2.25 hours, and I don't know whether we can actually afford 2.25 hours for this today. But you know what I'm like when I get waffling away, so we'll just have to see how it goes. But we've got some lovely dinner to eat when we're finished, and indeed tonight's Coronation Street, which is going to be a late one for us. But Gemma,
Yeah.
do you want what?
I'm just thinking we might not be able to have that dinner. We might have to have something else.
We'll see, won't we? It
No,
all
but it's
depends how long we
7
bobble
o'clock.
along on the Bobbins Awards. I had parents' evening at school today and everything. I would have got home earlier otherwise, but no, I was talking to all the lovely mums and dads. So we will just get straight in there with our first award of the night, which is our Do One, New One award. And also... I forgot to say as well, with this awards, I don't know if there's anyone out there thinking, hang on a minute, did I miss the opportunity to vote in these very important awards? And I was like, no, this is not one of those. We have not, and we have never opened the Bobbins Awards. This is not a democracy. Well, you've got me and Gemma that have got to decide between ourselves. I think that if we kind of open this up online, it might just lead into a massive slag fest. So we thought that we'd want to contain it just between us. But you're very welcome, of course, to write in and tell us your own personal winners for these Bobbins Awards. But so yeah, we've got our nominations here. We've got the shortlists drawn up, each of varying sizes, and we decide for ourselves, try and come to some kind of agreement about who should be the lucky person to take home the prize. So the Do One New One award, as I said, this is for the worst new character of 2021, and there weren't very many new regular characters starting last year, were there? So quite a lot of who we've got on the list are very minor characters, actually. And in fact, I think Uncle Ronnie Bailey, is the only character who's a regular that's come in, and I can't even believe that he's a new character. He seems like he's been established for a long time, doesn't he?
I feel like he was introduced slightly after the Baileys, but by a couple of months. But that's not true at all,
Literally,
is it?
this time last year, we had no idea who Ronnie Bailey was.
That's so crazy to
I
me.
did a Corrie Zoom press conference thing, like March, April maybe last year, where Vinter turned up and he's like, hey, I'm the new guy. That's what he sounds like. And
I'm the new one.
We got Ronnie. We also have got Harvey Gaskell, played by, I knew I shouldn't have said that. Who played Will Mellor, who was also at that press conference. So he's gone. He's in prison. He's not coming out again now. We've got Will. Remember Will, Gemma? Evil, intimidating, barely out of short pants Will, who put the willies up both Todd and Paul for various reasons last year, just
about remember him.
Yeah,
He was a naughty little boy.
He was he was the person that was on Todd's side, because Todd was trying to
That's right. He was like his
get
minion.
Paul in trouble. He started in 2020, like December 2020. But yeah, he was Todd's minion to try and get Paul in trouble by getting him to share his personal phone number when Paul worked on the helpline, didn't he? And then he kind of blackmailed Todd into stealing a heat pump. Who can forget that? He messed up Billy's lovely piano and nearly was responsible for Summer being run over. He videoed Todd's confession about the old heat pump malarkey and then played it on the big screen at the Naked Calendar launch. This hasn't been I've got this written out in notes ahead because it's kind of completely gone out of my mind, this guy. But we've also got Leo, Jenny's current...
Sinkhole beau.
Sinkhole beau is correct, yes. He has clambered out of his pit and is currently bonking away with Jenny.
Well, he's been fired from his job because he's incompetent at finding sinkholes.
Yes, not enough holes around. So Jenny's going to help him out with that. We've got lovely double L Phil. We've got Mimi.
Mimi.
We're not going to give her this, are we?
Of
some people absolutely despise Mimi, but we loved her, so straight away we're scratching her off. We had Lydia, played by Rebecca Ryan, Jack James Ryan's sister. Well, there's also, I suppose we could put Jacob himself, couldn't we, as well? And Fergus as well, played by the lovely Toby Hadoke. I don't know how to pronounce that.
Hadoken.
And he's, he's been in 5 episodes or so.
I don't know what to say here because I don't hate any of these people. Like,
we've got to hate one
Ronnie,
more than
Harvey,
the others.
Curtis, Will, Leo, Phil, Mimi, Lydia, and Fergus.
Yes. Who was the worst out of all of those? I mean, I'm kind of... Some of them, it feels like it's a bit too soon to say. Like Lydia, she's all right. I'm quite enjoying her. I'm not fussed on her, but I think she's doing an all right job as a an extra character. But we've not got to know her yet, really. Phil, I quite like, really. I'm kind of erring a little bit between Leo and I don't know, not really Ronnie. I mean, but maybe it is Ronnie because he's done the most, so he's got the most to prove. Whereas all the others really are tiny characters. Curtis, he was a bit of a wet lettuce, wasn't he?
Wet lettuce.
But
stick him in a salad spinner.
Leo really sucks the fun and the life and joy out of everything. I mean, it's nice to see Jenny happy and everything. And Ronnie has had his moments. Maybe I feel bad. I'm criticising Leo and Ronnie. I think I'm just being like mega protective of my Jenny. Like, no, you're not good enough. Not good enough for my Jen.
Yeah.
Stay away. I'm being a dad. I'm Alan Bradley from Beyond the Grave here.
It's what he would have wanted.
Yeah. Harvey was okay enough. He was not the most effective villain, but we've got Villains Awards later. And Will himself, I feel kind of bad for kicking a little kid.
I know, but we've done worse.
We have.
I mean, I'm gonna have to go with
my gut.
Yeah, because I don't really mind Leo, but I don't really mind any of them actually. I think that in previous years I've had very strong feelings about new characters, but all of these people seem fairly inoffensive. As far as annoying people go, Leo is inoffensive. So much that he's to the extent that he's a little bit too bland. And it's like, what does Jenny see in him apart from big hunk of chunk of meat? And maybe she likes that sort of thing. And he's always come across to me. He's felt like he's a side character and nothing more. So much so that when he returned. Just recently, I was actually quite surprised, and we've got to remember as well that we are judging, I suppose, 2021. We've got to try and put what's happened in the last month out of our minds. There's plenty of Bobbins that's happened in January 2022, but we've got to save that for this year. I know. I really just want to talk in this Bobbins Awards. I just feel like the whole thing should just be us moaning about the Faye and Craig storyline.
Yeah, we can't.
And Emma storyline. We have to wait.
Yeah, we have to wait for that.
Can we have next year? Can we have a category for worst prop?
What, for your crutch?
No, well, yeah, or worst graphic. Is that E-Fit?
Yeah, that wasn't that.
Oh, anyway, right. So
are we going Leo?
Yeah,
sorry, Leo. Maybe we'll get to know you, but that our gut says Leo at the moment as the worst new character.
More than sure that at some point we will have given somebody a Bobbins Award who later goes on to be.
Oh yeah, absolutely,
amazing.
Absolutely.
Maybe Leo will be a new. Who could it be? A new Len Fairclough.
Maybe. Let's see.
Okay. Stan Ogden.
So let's move on to
the 21st century.
Let's move on to our next category, which is the Grey Hoodie Award. Gemma, what is this?
Well, I think this is when somebody is supposed to be evil and scary, but they're just a bit stupid.
Yeah.
Because the Grey Hoodie Gang were the menacing youths that Simon got involved in.
Yeah, it was
and
him
they all
and
just
Tyler and...
Was it their uniform? I can't remember.
I don't know.
Did they specify?
I lose track of where we come up with these. I think they all just happened to wear these grey hoodies. So this is the most unintimidating villain.
Yeah, so we've got...
Who we got?
Jacob, who is back as the drug man.
He's given up, hasn't he? He's gone on the straight and narrow and he's got beaten up for it. Yeah, you remember he had his arm in his sling.
Yeah, but didn't he come back and say, I am doing it and I'm not going to give you any summer?
Yeah.
And then he quit again.
And then he quit again, yeah.
Well, he's useless.
Indecisive.
Harvey. Mm-hmm. Lucas, who is this guy
Remember him?
Yeah, he met Carla in Devon. Yes, and it never went anywhere, did it?
Not
right,
really.
So he met her he met Carla when she was escaped in Devon.
Yeah, and he showed up this time last year or so.
Lure her to a spa weekend. What villain. He ordered a load of knickers, even though he'd left his firm 3 weeks before his order. So Carla and Sarah went to his lair and stole his knickers back. Lair.
Yeah,
and then nothing happened.
Nothing really happened with Lucas.
Yeah, that's right. It feels like a dongle, doesn't it? Like a dingly dangle dongle of a plot. Will,
as we've said before.
Yeah. Sharon, who could forget Sharon?
Avit Sharon.
Hashim.
Oh, Hashim, you're a strong contender.
Mariam's dad, who's now dead.
Yes.
Rip. And Max, who is a little pervert.
He's not. He's explained this, Gemma. Just because...
don't. Sorry. How come Ardy never got sent pants? Do you think Ardy's like, how do I get in on this without drawing attention to myself?
I'm sure not. Okay, so do you have any gut feelings towards who should get...
Yeah, I think it's obvious he should get this.
What, Hashim?
Yeah. Don't really think we need to discuss any further, do we? Because all the rest of them had their moments, haven't they? Like, you know...
Jacob's been awesome. There's no way we're going to give it to him.
Harvey, definitely. I don't know...
The problem with... I think that when he was doing his stuff and he was, out of prison before he went into prison, he was decently intimidating, and seeing Will Mellor, who has apparently been known for playing more good characters, taking on a villainous role, I thought he did an alright job.
If you told me he always plays villains, I would have said yeah.
Absolutely. Harvey's problem is that he was carted off to jail quite quick in his tenure, wasn't he? And then he was just sort of making Sharon Bentley do his bidding. But then he did have his very awesome escape sequence. I mean, it wasn't produced in the best way.
It had its failures, didn't it? But it wasn't down to the character of Harvey.
I'd be scared of Harvey if he came out, if he kind of got out of his prison van and came after me with a gun and I was dressed up as Morticia Addams.
Yeah, I'd be like, I'm sorry, I won't park my car there on the driveway. He's
no Pat Phelan, Richard Hillman, Tony Gordon, the list goes on, is he? But no. He was all right. Lucas, I'd feel bad giving it to him because you can't give an award to someone that nobody even remembers who he is.
And I can't remember how menacing or unmenacing he was, so he's a non-entity as far as I'm concerned. Will, he's just a scoundrel, isn't he?
Just a little scamp.
But I think he did what he set out to do.
Yeah, I think so. I just thought it was kind of funny seeing him, how intimidated Todd was by him when he had him by the short and curlers, didn't he? And he was, Todd should have just squashed him really, and I didn't. Yeah, but. We won't give it to him. Sharon, I thought was quite good, but I mean, she was a bad villain there. That she did have a bit of a heart as well, didn't she? She had that link with Rita. She had when she didn't really want to help Sam being kidnapped. She was just going along with it because of old Harvey was telling her what to do. I thought she was all right when she was, tasing around.
I wish I had an aunt like Sharon who'd do what my bidding.
Yeah, that'd be quite good.
Like Auntie Sharon to go and
steal a kid for me.
Yeah. Go cause menace.
Yeah,
go taser someone in the bum.
Go to the corner shop and steal me a bag of sweets from your foster mum.
Why don't
you?
Love it. Max has not really done enough villainy to.
No, he was kind of pretty nasty though,
wasn't he?
What did he
do? I forgot.
Well, he punched Daniel. I remember.
Oh well,
he was
Daniel's
just getting
asking for it.
He was just being nasty to Summer maybe. This is bad. This is only a few months ago, but he's been turned around, hasn't he? Since Harry McDermott has hung up his school tie and has passed on the role to Paddy Beaver. It's like he has now gone into tearaway teen phase. He was very defiant of David, and we're seeing David's kind of struggling as a father, and everyone's going, oh well, you know, David, you used to be twice as bad when you were a boy. I thought he was all right this week. It's also what we've seen with Max this week. But yeah, Hashim was just like comedically bad at times, wasn't he?
Hashim was comical. Like,
what do you mean, me, Hashim?
It was like at one point in his life, somebody told him that he mumbled too much, and he took that on board with the
He's been compensating for that ever
utmost
since.
enthusiasm, and. Yeah, at no point was he really ever... It just felt to me like Zidane should have just said no. And I don't know what Hashim would have done. I think he would have just gone, all right then,
I think he would have
gone
just
away.
burst a vein in his head or something, because he always just seemed very angry, but he was also quite on the small side, wasn't he? He didn't have the stature of a...
He was a chihuahua, wasn't he? He was like... Yep, 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 yep,
He
yep.
reminds me of, you know, you get these mafia bosses and things, or even on cartoons or whatever, where the boss of the gang is kind of small and he's flanked by these two heavies.
But he didn't have any goons.
He didn't have his goons, did he? So he was there on his own, just either stepping out of a car or lurking in Villain's Alley.
And when you're the head guy, right, you should be the chill one, and your little henchmen, they can be the rabid
Yeah, they pick
dogs.
up all the slack.
And shout, and you could be like, calm down, everybody. Oh, so it's like, instead of being like, I'm literally a psychopath.
Yeah, but
Hashim gets this.
He gave himself a coronary just because of how stressful he found being a villain.
I know. Why didn't he pursue something a bit more calming, like working on a donkey sanctuary or something like that?
Yeah, Maria, we
imagine
can
him
hook him up. Maria, she's got one of those. It's over in Cyprus, isn't she?
I can't imagine him standing on the gates soliciting donations from people. You're just going to walk past the bucket? Look at this donkey. Isn't it sad?
Yeah, I mean, it just all just ties into that story, which, you know, wasn't one of Corrie's
was dull.
best stories of 2021, was it? Bring back Zidane, okay, let's see what happens.
Oh, he's
Money
just a
launderer.
miserable
Yeah, he's just a miserable. And you got miserable Zidane versus angry, but not particularly intimidating Hashim, who sets fire. He gets his goons to set fire to the speed dial, but it wasn't even a great fire.
Yes, it wasn't, was it? It was just flames in front of a camera. It's just like somebody standing in front of the camera with a lit match.
Yeah,
it
was.
Look at the flames.
And a little bit of a smoke machine outside the speed dial door, so people walking past on the street can eventually go, oh, hang on a minute.
Oh, I think it's on fire.
I think it's on fire down there.
The thing about Hashim was that he started at an 11, didn't he? And he didn't have anywhere to go.
Yeah.
Somebody
Somebody just needs to tell him to take a chill pill, as all the kids on Corrie like to say.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he'd have been fine, and he'd just gone back to doing his whatever it is that he's got up to with Miriam, decorating or whatever.
Right, next
Sorry,
one.
Hashim. It had to be
I think
you,
it was
didn't
obvious. Hashim was the obvious one there.
Yeah. Mardy Mare Awards. So we're coming into our sexist awards now, aren't we? We have got the Mardy Mare and then the Dirty Dog. And this category is where we
uphold gender norms.
Yeah, and just pick the character, the female character that got on our nerves enough for just being mardy and narky and
whining.
Miserable and whiny. It's so bad. So we got Maria as a nominee for this, and I think that's mostly just for, you know, it's nice for that she's got a hobby and everything, and she's into the environment, and it's very important. But she did go on about it, didn't she, last year?
If you could have saved the planet by releasing hot air, we would have done it already, Maria.
It kind of just made me want to buy a diesel car and go driving around the ring road at 70 miles an hour.
It's very unfortunate. Like, it's almost like, imagine if she was a vegan. You know, she's a vegan.
Terrible.
She's like an environmental vegan, isn't she?
And it all comes down to that scene where what's his name, Liam had a bit of an asthma attack, and then from that she's just gone on her crusade.
And it's just like vegans, right? In exactly the same way, we all know that they're right and they've got a point, And that
Absolutely.
makes us even more mad about
Yes, you're right, actually, because I think that saving the planet is very important.
Yes, it is important that we should all stop eating meat because it's cruel. Yes, it is important we should stop driving cars and not park and kill children with fumes. But can you stop making me feel bad about it?
Spider showed how you can make a sympathetic environmentalist about 25 years ago on Coronation Street, and Maria's just not quite there yet.
Yeah, but the thing is about Spider is that he was always that way, whereas Maria's just discovered in the last 6 months or something that the planet is in imminent danger.
And she's making up for lost time over the past 40 years where she didn't realise.
She didn't care.
We've also got Abby as a Mardy mare. She's been a real controversial one, hasn't she? Because lots of people like Abby, lots of people really don't like Abby, lots of people are very disappointed by some of the choices that she's made this year, including having a massive go at Kelly and not letting it drop over her involvement with Seb's death.
Now I feel bad here because I feel as though we inadvertently quash opposition sometimes without even really realising it, because we love Abby and we talk about how much we like her quite often. But then recently, when she started being a bit naughty and being horrible to Kelly, I think on our Facebook group, lots of people came out.
I know. I've
Abby
not
haters.
wanted to criticise
I didn't want to say anything
in front of Michael and Gemma, but
I didn't want to say anything, but I hate that bitch. So I'm sorry, but that's why we have the feedback section. So if you ever want to say anything contrary, not about Tim, because
what I would say was also
I know that people like Tim and I hate him, so I don't need to hear about that.
What I would also say about Abby this year is, and I know it's not Sally, not her fault, bless her, but when she disappeared around the court case, that's just, just having a strop, isn't it? Just because things didn't go your way. With you wanted Kelly and Corrie both sent down, and you didn't get it, then you bogged off for a little bit. And I know it's because Sally Carman had COVID, but, in the world of Coronation Street, Abby was just a bit of a bad sport there, really. Also, going back a bit earlier in the year, I thought that she was being a bit mardy about her wedding because she didn't want a big old traditional white wedding, did she? And everyone was trying to get her to be the perfect traditional bride, and she was digging her heels in a little bit. So I thought that she has had her mardy times this past year.
Hang on, what's mardy about saying I don't want a big wedding?
Well, no, just the way she went on about it, like being just refusing to conform to tradition. How dare she?
That's what I'm getting at.
If Kevin wanted a nice little romantic thing, and she's like, "Oh no, that's not me," and kind of making light of the holy matrimony.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's terrible.
I mean, it's not the most. It's mostly the Corrie and Kelly stuff, to be honest, that she's a nominee for this one. Eileen, I think, has also been a bit of a mardy mare, and I know that's kind of her MO, isn't it?
See, I would argue here and say that she's more of a stroppy cow than a mardy mare.
Oh, do you distinguish between the two?
I do, yeah. Mardy mare is like getting your knickers in a twist about something that you feel very strongly about, but a stroppy cow is just always everything. Nothing's ever good enough.
Eileen used to be a lot more fun, didn't she? And she was slightly sarky, but she always had kind of a wry grin on her face, and it just feels like over the past few years,
it felt like she was ribbing you because, she was mean, but with to her friends, But now it's just like she's mean to everybody, even the people that she supposedly...
Yeah, like, I mean, if Beth had actually made more than about 20 appearances in 2021, she'd be on the list here for sure, because that's just her default setting, isn't it? Beth Tinker, I'm sure she's won this award before. But yeah, Eileen, there's all the stuff with George when she was bickering with him and falling out over this and that. She wasn't particularly fun to watch. I just wanted to give her a big hug and say, oh, everything's all right. Just go back to being nice, Eileen, from the past. Leanne, obviously, has got to be in there. She's just going to be default every year, isn't she? She was very wallowy at the beginning of the year, and yes, I know, her son died, and wasn't it tragic? But come on, love. Cheer up a little bit. Don't become a hermit and trap yourself in your house, and don't notice that your son's getting involved in drugs. Come on. And she was very tragic during all the drug stuff. Once you found out about it, and all Simon this and all that. She was also very
Simon this and all that. Yeah.
Is what I remember about halfway through 2021. And also she was very mardy about Sam, wasn't she? Because he just wanted to bond with his old dad, but she didn't want him.
And he didn't want a replacement mum. He just wanted her to be nice and make him cereal.
She took a lot of convincing to accept Sam into her life, and I'm sure that many people would argue that that's perfectly natural, but we're just having a bit of a laugh, really.
We're allowed to.
Yeah, and
they're not real.
Sarah's been fairly mardy recently, hasn't she, with all the Lydia stuff, and how dare you have had a romantic past before I came along, Adam.
How dare you shagged around before I knew you existed.
Yes,
and also,
says the girl who got knocked up at 12.
I want to have babies with you, but now I don't.
Yeah, she's been a little bit insufferable just recently. Right, I feel that we can't really give this to Abby because I love her too much.
Oh. She's very naughty.
She is naughty, but this isn't the Naughty Nancy Award, is it? This is Mardy Mare. Is it Mardy Mare?
But she was nerdy. Mardy. She was. She's stalking Gay all over the place.
It drop, would she?
No.
We can't give it to Eileen because she's not been in it enough. So it's similar to Beth, I suppose.
I think it's Leanne.
Do you reckon?
Well, if it's not Abby, it's Leanne because it should be Abby.
Well, you can give it to Abby if you want to.
Well, I think that a lot of people would quite like it if we gave it to Abby. And I think that you can give it to somebody and still like them.
She was very sad a lot of the year. Lots of Abby tears, wasn't she? And that's not necessarily Mardy. We do have a reward for that later on, actually. But... yeah, for not letting it drop.
She looked at Kevin in the eye and she was like, I can't even tell you what I would do. I'm so Mardy. I would do unspeakable things.
I would crush Corey's head.
And Corrie. And she had him down in the sewer.
Neck and spit down his down his throat. I'm paraphrasing here. We can go for Abby if you like.
But I think it's Abby or Leanne because Leanne also the wallowing.
The
boring.
Incessant wallowing. And
getting it. How many times have you, you've your son dies tragically, and then you get yourselves embroiled in a drug spree.
I can't believe that the two characters that we're putting head to head for Mardy Mare have both had their young sons taken from them.
Really bad,
really harsh,
but I know, but I can imagine.
Up, you two. You're in a soap. This is should be used to this. Is what life's dealt you now.
I'm pretty sure that we gave it to Michelle for the loss of Rory. So this is just very in character for us.
Are we going to go Abby? Are we going to go Abby just to try and shake her out of this funk, and maybe 2022 will be a much more happy, positive year for her.
We'll throw people a bone here and give it to Abby.
Okay, fine. Gemma, what's our next award then?
The Dirty Dog Award.
Dirty Dog.
That's right. We've got the naughty shaggers around us.
Yes.
We've got Tyrone, who went off with a little bit of
strumpet, a little bit of skirt.
With a
little bit of a Romanian rumpy pumpy.
Yeah, with poor taste in Photoshop pictures. Corrie, who...
Alina we're talking about, in case you didn't notice.
Yeah. And then also the fact that he's like, oh, no, I'm sad because I've been rejected from my other family.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't have it always. Corey, who is just vile, wasn't he?
Well, he was awful to Asha and Nina.
Yeah, being a horrible, nasty man.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't... I don't think he was unfaithful, and you're not a dirty dog for kicking Seb to death. It's all of your
that's
your
fine.
Sexual miscreancy that
right,
gets you this one, and that
dirty
scene.
Dogs aren't necessarily
they're
murderers.
Not murderers. They're not mauling.
There
you
is,
to
if
death.
There's a Venn diagram, it might overlap a little bit, but not a lot.
That scene where he's bragging to Ardy about bonking his sister and her voracious sexual appetite. Was
he's a
hilarious.
Nasty. He's a vile, nasty.
Yeah, and this all came after pressuring her for sex as well.
He should do a consent workshop.
Corey should absolutely be doing a consent workshop here. Yeah.
This is the consent workshop category, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ronnie is also on here.
Ronnie is on here. I mean, he's not that dirty, is he? He's just a bit of a schmoozer, but I just can't forgive him for bedding Jenny. He's never going to get my approval. He was also... he had that thing with Aggie as well, didn't he? Well, he didn't have a thing with Aggie last year, but we had the story about how he had a thing with Aggie in the past, and I think that was before she got together with Ed, actually. So I think that he'd maybe be a hard one to argue for here. But somebody who's potentially a lot easier to argue for the recipient of this award is Imran Habib. Talking about if we're giving Abby the Mardi Mare for a character that we absolutely love, Imran doesn't escape easily here, because
this is really hard, because I hate Tyrone and what he did to Fizz, and I think that he's disgraceful for abandoning his family for a stupid dalliance. But the thing is, though, he kissed Alina, and then he called the whole thing off with Fizz, didn't he?
Yes.
Like, he knew that I can't continue pretending and living a lie with you, Fizz. It's not just the fact that I kissed Alina, but also I'm unhappy in this relationship, so I'm going to leave you.
Yeah, she didn't get a good service in from the mechanic until after he had left Fizz.
Which is, arguably more honourable than what Imran did, who's still not come clean.
He's not. He's kept that secret, hasn't he, for a good, 5 months at the moment.
Shagging around with Abby and then lying about it.
Just because he lost in court.
I know. And she's got a Mardi Mare award, so she has got a reason for being sad. And
Abby was vulnerable, wasn't she? Yeah. She was weeping over her son's death and the fact that the court case didn't go well. And I thought at one point he was going to get his head turned by Sabine as well, but they didn't go down that route, did they? Which I'm glad. But yeah, he was out of all of these. He is the unfaithful one. Tyrone had split up with Fizz. Corrie didn't cheat on anybody.
Well, Corrie's a vile,
Ronnie certainly didn't.
His misogynistic, horrible man. He is worse than Imran.
Yeah. In many ways.
But in many ways,
Corrie is the more deplorable character. Worse. But Imran cheated on poor, lovely Toya.
Yes, and he's also threatening their lovely little foster family thing here.
Yes, did he think of Elsie?
We didn't have any high expectations of Corrie and his behaviour, did we? But we certainly expected better. I hold Imran
to a higher standard.
But, he's got form too, because Sabine pointed this out, that he cheated when they were married.
He's naughty. He just kissed somebody in previous years.
He's naughty. I think he should get this.
I think he's kind of got to, hasn't he? Loath be it for me to admit it, but if the last award proved nothing else, it was that you can't escape a Bobbins Award, whether we like you or not.
Exactly, we're firm but fair.
I hope that I hope that they don't that they're able to get him some kind of
help for his
repentance and. And that he gets,
How could
I don't want him to get away with it,
but equally
I don't want him and Toya to split up for good.
Well, I think that Abby's baby that's going to be on the way soon.
It could
going to throw a spanner in the works, isn't it?
It could happen. That's not a spoiler, it's just speculation.
That's speculation. Yeah, we've just decided this is going to happen.
Yeah.
Dirty dog Imran. Sorry,
Imran. We know you wanted a Conversation Street award, Charlie, but I hope that this softens the blow a little bit for you there. I think we can print out a little certificate for Charlie, and he can put it on the wall of his flat, can't we? Okay, right. Next award is our Give Over award, and this is what I can't even remember what we. I put this together so long ago. Isn't that a bit stupid?
This is what the blimmin'...
did they really do
Craig
that?
Storyline is going to get this award. And I'll tell you what...
It's the Come On Now award.
I really hope that the Craig, Faye and Emma award story gets this award next year, because if anything else happens as stupid as this...
I know.
In this year, I'm going to be angry.
4 weeks into the year.
Right, so the Give Over award, go on, tell me.
My nominees that I came up with over the course of the year, Fanny is number one.
I can't believe that this was a year ago. It feels like so long.
Yeah, it was 13 years that we were all talking about Gail's Fanny.
13 years?
13 months, sorry. We were talking about Gail's Fanny.
We've been talking about it for 13 years.
Doing her family history, finding that this character was called Fanny, and that was basically the root of the, inverted quotes, humour of this story. Then we find out that her and George share a great-great-grandma for some reason. It just kept on going, not for too long, but for long enough that they thought they could string out this great grandma having a funny name. We've also got all of the stuff around Ted's funeral was a bit give-overy, particularly Steve and Tim's reaction. Now, both of these characters were recently bereaved. Steve's son, Ollie, had just died. Tim's dad, Jeff, and I know he was a wrong un, but he was still his dad, had just fallen to his doom off of the roof of number 6 to be pecked into the afterlife by the chickens. But despite that, they were having a bit of a laugh around Ted's funeral, and they were talking about who gets to drive the hearse, and they were all being strangely competitive. And then there was a thing about Tim thinking the hearse was haunted. Do you remember? He was sitting in the driver's seat and he was looking back like some kind of zombie Ted Page was about to emerge from the coffin. That was all a bit silly, and I was like, come on, you don't do that. All of the trolling hoo-ha, I think, deserves a nomination for the Give Over Award. As in, again, about, what was this, 10 months ago, 11 months ago, Kathy trolling Tracy because she thinks that she's been creaming off some of Ollie's... Creaming off some of Ollie's funds to buy herself some bags and shoes and things. And then people got mad at the McDonald's, targeted her, and then Kathy kind of goes and hides out in Yasmin's place and has a bit of a Golden Girls thing for a few weeks with Elaine and Yasmin. And they just get scared of mice and flounce around in their monogrammed dressing gowns. That was all a bit silly. I shouted, give over, when the police believed Corrie after he said, I didn't have anything to do with Seb's death, mate, you want me gov. That was, he's clearly a wrong one, but the police were like, oh yes, you seem like an upstanding citizen and a future potential...
Unbelievable.
Oh, well, I don't know. It was to me, because he was clearly a wrong one, wasn't he? But...
I think
viewers' intuition. I thought that Jenny copping off with Uncle Ronnie was a massive give over. I know, and Sal's told me that Johnny in her relationship wasn't all peaches and cream for all these years. He definitely treated her badly. But come on, he was just about to come out of prison. Surely she could have kept those knickers up for a little bit longer. That was the thing that got me the maddest out of the whole of 2021 on Coronation Street. Along the lines of Jenny, another Give Over Award nomination goes to the whole Avett tasing malarkey with Sharon. The fact that Sharon would have a taser, and I know she's a wrong one and everything, but come on. And then she does it out in broad daylight in the middle of the street. Inventive, yes. A quote that will... go into the Coronation Street annals, yes, but give t-shirts. Over, come on.
It was a bit silly that she ended up on doing it in broad daylight with Jenny falling on the ground. I mean, I know that you're not allowed to be close to each other because of COVID at the time, but it doesn't mean that you can't get out a window.
I thought that Nina blocking the street with a cafe that one time was fairly give over. She was protesting against the building site pollution, and this was all just kind of getting her together with Seb, I think, I remember. But I did kind of thought, why is she doing this? I don't think that Nina would actually put a cafe in the middle of a street. Coronation Street week, that's kind of a take your pick for the give over moments, isn't it? Particularly the convenience at which various sinkholes would open up beneath characters at just the right moment. We had the whole, Harvey being able to engineer his escape from the prison van was give over. Harvey being washed down the Weatherfield sewers out into wherever it ends up, right next to the gun. Very convenient there. Give over. The list just goes on for that week, but bloody hell, it was a great week of Coronation Street. The whole Emma and Curtis story was rather silly, but the thing that made me say give over the most on that one was when she realised that he was actually being a bit of a fibber when she heard... What was it? Ruby and Hope were watching a medical programme, weren't they? Their favourite DVD. Give over. First of all,
the children watching a medical drama makes no sense, because there was nothing about it that was inherently childlike, was it?
I don't think so, but the words that the character uses on that made Emma go, oh, hang on a minute, that sounds exactly what Curtis said a month and a half or so ago when he was checking on Harvey after he drove into a skip. There's something going on here, come on.
But you wouldn't... Also,
why would she remember that?
Why would she remember that? And also, why wouldn't she watch it and go, they're using medical jargon the same way that Curtis did? Like, why would you assume that because it was in a TV programme, it wasn't true.
I don't remember, but that was very silly. Very, very silly indeed. I thought, on the same subject as Curtis, another nomination that I came up with for this one was that whole thing where Curtis transferred the money over to Steve's account after Steve said, here's my bank details and a PIN number, can you transfer 100 grand or whatever it was over to my account? One, that's not going to work. You can't do that. So you can't make bank transfers like that. But then they had the whole thing about it was delayed because of a technical hitch.
But also, they didn't... Why did he have £100,000 worth of charity money in his own private bank account?
In his current account.
Bit weird.
That's shady as heck.
Because you shouldn't... Also, you're not supposed to really keep more than 80 grand in any one account, are you? Because it's not guaranteed by the banks.
Yeah. So
and I think that Steve would know that as a business owner.
You'd have thought so, Rover's landlord, streetcars owner.
I don't know nothing about nothing.
That was rather silly. Just the whole notion of Maria standing for councillor has got to be up for discussion here. Come on, who'd have thought that she'd make a councillor? Honestly, Maria, it's nice to have ambition and everything, but I wouldn't have seen that one coming a year ago.
I wouldn't vote
for it. And a final nomination towards the end of the year, that bit where at the Christmas market, now who was it? Was it Max changed the words on the school choir's auto cue, so they started singing about how Daniel is a pervy teacher man. Yeah, and you're right, they were compelled to sing along. So
it's written on the screen. I literally have no choice. I'm like a robot. I'm like a carol singing robot, and this is the program I have to follow.
Exactly. So, what's your gut, Gemma? There's an awful lot of give over nominations there.
It's very low level picky pettiness,
but
isn't
that's
it?
what the Bobbins are all about.
But one thing really jumps out at me as quite a major series of blunders, which I still enjoyed and thought it was brilliant, and I would not change a single thing.
Oh, please, can we give it to the Coronation Street?
We have to give it to Coronation Street because it was so silly, but I loved it.
Utterly ridiculous.
Absolutely camp. It was like, if you were to make up the most ridiculous thing you could think of, it would be something along the lines of Coronation Street.
And the fact that we personally watched it and still sort of said, yeah, that was amazing at the end of it. And I know not everybody did. Just goes to show how great all of the production, the performances, the life and death, the drama and everything was around it. Despite you just had to suspend disbelief.
This was the trouble.
Massive storm, sinkholes opening up all over the place. Conveniently placed guns, conveniently opening sinkholes. I know soaps are supposed to be a little on the incredible side. It's not just a reflection of actual true life, but all of that happening at once. It's just like it was a little condensed thing of like, well, in Weatherfield, that is kind of the crime capital of the UK, isn't it? And quite a slightly higher than average death rate and name your pick other issues rate. But this was just all in one week. Absolutely silly. Everything else that I think we've mentioned is also... I mean, if we weren't to give it to that one, because it seems a little unfair, but I will happily give it to that one. Is there anything else there that particularly got your goat?
What's unfair about giving it to Coronation Street? Because we loved it, but we can't ignore the fact that a lot of people got quite cross about how silly it was. And there were some epic moments, and I think it was all... I think that the character moments in it were all really strong, but it was just the how that came about was just...
Oh, don't forget, what about Roy lifting Abby out of the sinkhole just with the power of his bag?
Well, that bag is quite important.
That's a sturdy
bag.
I think, looking at the other ones, Fanny, I just look back and shake my head at. Honestly, I don't know what they were thinking of there. But also that Emma recognising the Curtis's words on the medical programme, that was up there with... Do you remember a couple of years ago we had when Jade had stolen Hope away or something, and Fizz finds the Paradise Lost book or something, and then she from that says, Hope must be in the loft of Jade's house. Or It was that kind of stretch.
It's really difficult for a TV show because the viewers put things together much quicker than the characters can, because we know we're watching a fictional television programme and the clues are all in there and nothing is coincidental. But when a character works out like they're reading the plot of their own novel, it just gets a bit ridiculous.
Yeah.
And you know, there are things that, that Emma thing did make you go, oh God.
Are they
No,
really
that's
doing
stupid.
this?
That's
Are they really
stupid.
going there?
There were other things that were far more glaringly obvious as to why Curtis is lying than, you know, a character in a show going 10 cc's of adrenaline stat.
That story unfortunately suffered from the fact that a few very clever people had predicted that a few months previously, and then from that we were like, it's got to be that. He's got to have factitious disorder.
The pacing was too drawn out.
But sometimes you just don't know when people are going to guess, do you? There weren't any clues that from that early on. I mean, the clue certainly came a while before the reveal, where he was acting as shifty and shady as. But yeah, okay. Anyway, Coronation Street it is for our Give Over Award of 2021. Next up, Gemma, I think we need a woman's touch to read out the name of this one.
Oh, Can Do Something.
The Can Do Something Award. This isn't actually a bad award. I think it might be an honour to get this award, because this isn't where we criticise what somebody's done. We're criticising what they haven't done because maybe they haven't been given the opportunity for whatever reason. This is where we look at which characters just didn't really show up very much in Coronation Street in 2021, and we think, well, we'd quite like to see a bit more of them in 2022. And of course there were various reasons why some of these characters didn't show up. Some of them it might have been COVID. Some of them it might have been actors had other commitments,
health problems,
whatever. It doesn't matter because for the purposes of this, they're not actors, they're actual people that just couldn't be bothered to get out of bed for most of the year.
No, that feels...
Now, I've made up my list here, so I'm just going to quickly run down them. I've also got how many episodes they were in, which we don't need to say for all of them. But I'm thinking Eileen, Craig, Paul, Gary, Gail, Tracy, Mary, Amy, Chesney, Brian, Kathy, Audrey, Ken, Rita, Beth, and the Quads, all of which... apart from Eileen, who did 61 episodes, and Craig, who was in 58, were in under 50 episodes for the whole of the year. And considering that how many episodes, there's like 300 odd episodes of Coronation Street a year, that is a shockingly low number. Some of these, despite not appearing in very much, still had a few memorable appearances, didn't they? For example, Brian and Kathy, they had that... stupid but memorable trolling storyline, and Kathy hiding herself away at Yasmin's house for no particular reason. I would love for them to be given a proper, decent, serious story, because one of my favourite moments of last year was Brian reading out Abby's witness statement. That showed what a cracking job Peter Gunn can do when he's given some serious material, and he wasn't always such an imbecile as they're making him now, because he's been in the show for, you know, good 10 years or so now, hasn't he? I'm guessing. But yeah, some characters just didn't really do much. Tracy, barely saw her last year. Paul, he was very much involved in the Paul, Todd, Billy, who's gonna Billy end up with story, but then he had massive stretches where he wasn't in there at all.
Gary also, I mean, Gary was like one of the most major characters when he was involved in the loan shark stuff, and he's done absolutely nothing.
No,
apart from deliver Corrie to the police, which was, you know, shows you what he can do when he's given a story. Yeah,
apart from that, he's just been showing up every now and then going, hey, remember me? I killed Rick Neelan. Still a secret, isn't it?
How's Kelly doing?
Yeah.
Does she need
an envelope of cash? Yeah, does she need an envelope of cash through the letterbox? But the thing with Gary is, I'm not clamouring for him to come back and be a bigger role. I'm sure he will, but I'm not gagging for Gary. Whereas somebody like Ken, I would like to see more of. Obviously, William Roach had COVID last year, so he had to have a good old stint off of the show, because I don't know whether you've noticed this yet, he's quite old. But then also Tracy, I think that she's being very underserved in storylines at the moment. I feel it's time to put her into the forefront again. And I know, like 7-8 years ago, we were complaining that Carla and Tracy were monopolising screen time, but it's time for me, I think, to come back to the fore. Now, Craig, we've got there as a somebody who didn't do very much in 2021, and from what we've seen so far of 2022,
we should be grateful.
Quite possibly, yeah. Rita, love Rita, but I don't think we're going to see loads of her this year. It's just a shame sometimes that when stuff is happening with Jenny, it feels like an injection of Rita into those scenes would just lift them a little bit, but maybe we can't expect that. Same with Audrey. Some of these older characters, Audrey's contribution to last year was every now and again going, I can't see very well.
It smashed Rita's car up, so she can be in this episode as well.
Yeah, and I love all. Any there out of we've got to weigh up who is likely to be able to do something in 2022 with who we want to.
Well, the thing is, some of these
for you?
People I don't necessarily want him to do anything. Like Chesney, just stay where you are, don't do anything.
Yeah, like Craig, we've already seen in 2022 what he's capable of when they give him plenty of screen time.
Paul also, nah. He's
just a bit. He's got a permanent grimace, hasn't he, Paul?
He's turned nasty. He's turned into kind of like a male version of Beth, where he doesn't necessarily have a go at people like Beth does, but he just seems like he constantly disapproves.
He's always glowering.
What have you achieved in your life, Paul, to be so dismissive of other people?
Yeah, and I really didn't want Billy and Paul to get together.
I reckon the person on this list that I would like to see more of, you're not going to agree with me on, because it's Gary.
Yeah, because I knew you'd say that.
I cannot wait for this story to get resolved though, because I've been feeling like Gary's on the cusp of greatness for years since we had the loan shark stuff. I feel like, this has got to be Gary's year. This has got to be the year. And I think COVID messed up a lot of their plans for Gary. But you've got Kelly now is a permanent character on the street, and she's living with Maria and Gary.
Yeah, I think we will see a lot of Gary this year, especially with Maria doing her standing for council and everything as well. And they'll be wanting to give Kelly a lot more to do. So I'm not worried about Gary. I mean, I just don't particularly like Gary that much. Mikey North is lovely. I've sat with him. I've sat next to him once. He's a very nice guy, but Gary just doesn't do it for me as a character. I partly want him to do something so that he can be caught and sent to prison, and then that's the end of that. Because he's got to have his comeuppance, hasn't he? Not just for Rick Needham, but for Rana.
You're supposed
dropped a roof on her head.
The soap justice is supposed to be, swift and vengeful.
This is lingering.
This has taken too long, and I think by the time they're gonna have to do a lot. I think they're gonna have to do something else with Gary to re-establish his villainy and kind of because if out of nowhere he suddenly gets done for this crime that he committed, quite a lot of people are gonna go, I can't remember what happened.
How do you feel about Tracy? Because she's
I'm trying to think of what story she's been involved in, but it's just been the Ollie sort of stuff, isn't it? Because a lot of these people I can say, okay, well, they haven't done a lot, but, Audrey has got her cataract story or whatever it is.
Tracy
Kathy
has
and
been
Brian
a side character, and I think
their,
for somebody as
story.
important as Tracy, she deserves more.
Eileen had her romance with George, the quads, they can't be in it. Rita, Ken, and who did you just say? Who were just talking about Tracy? It feels like they've been in it without having any stories.
Nothing to do. Can we have a tie between Gary and Tracy? Is that allowed? Because
I give it to Tracy then, because at least Gary got to be the hero of the hour in the Corrie storyline, even though that sort of came out of nowhere. At least he had something to do. Whereas I'm really struggling. I really don't remember what Tracy's done, and also to give Tracy one of the best Barlows.
Yes.
Only 50 episodes in a year feels a bit.
There's something wrong there.
Don't know if there's another reason that we don't know about.
No,
but we can't speculate.
Do not know.
And we're not going to.
Love Kate Ford as Tracy.
We're just gonna, imagine that they're all equally available, and say why don't we have more Tracy?
Okay, there we go. Tracy is our Ken Do Something Award.
Winner.
Right, winner, exactly. Next up, Gemma, what have we got? No, I'm going to announce this one. This is the Build Up to Nout Award. And this is what we award a story, which for a time seemed like it was going to be quite important, but then when the climax had happened and it came to a head, it would just ended up as a bit of a damp squib. Gemma, would you like to explain who we've got as our nominees in the build up to now category?
The Bailey paternity storyline, and this was, who's the daddy?
Who's Michael's dad? Is it Ed?
Yeah.
Is it Michael?
No. Michael's not his own dad.
Is his own dad? Is it Ed? Is it
It's
Ronnie?
sort of Back to the Future situation.
And there definitely seemed like there was a fairly good chance that it could have ended up being Ronnie, couldn't they? Because he was all being shifty, and it's like, that's going to put the cat among the pigeons. And what are the storyline potentials if we find out that Ed's not really Michael's dad? And then he gets the DNA results, and James has his brilliant moment where he says that Ken Barlow's the dad. But then it turns out, oh no, Ed is Michael's dad after all. Now we don't need to talk about it again.
No, don't worry about it. No more questions. Johnny and Gary in prison together.
Yeah, again, that felt like it had potential, didn't it? The whole of the Johnny story felt like he was in there for a little bit. He was seeing Aiden, he was seeing his cat and his whatever. And usually when you throw characters in prison together, it's because they're going to have a big old meaty prison storyline. And it felt like they just didn't really give it the time that it needed. And then once Johnny agreed to take his MS medicine, he was like, he's kind of, don't need to see him again until he gets out.
I don't agree with this being on the list because I do think that it had a payoff at the end when he was dying and he...
Oh yeah, that absolutely did. But for him actually being in prison with Gary, they could have done more.
Peter's liver transplant.
That was a huge story for the first few months of last year, wasn't it? Like, Chris Gascoigne, he acted his little socks off. He had so many seizure scenes. He had his jigsaw, he had his blanket.
Yeah, his jigsaw and his blanket.
He had
very
his orange
iconic.
juice and his little shot glasses of whiskey for his medicine.
Yeah.
That was brilliant. And it was like, he could die if he has another drink. He could shuffle off his mortal coil and he'd be there swigging his bottle of whiskey, saying, stick that, Jimmy. I'll do what I want. Who's going to be my transplant person? And then he's like, you can't have a transplant now, Peter. And it's like, then he has his marriage to Carla. And then he face plants on the cobbles. Afterwards, it was all very dramatic. And then he gets his transplant. And then he just wasn't in the show for about 6 months.
Because he got rest up. Not like Tim, where he had a triple heart bypass and now... he's absolutely fine. He just can't get off the sofa. There's
been quite a few times in the past decade, 15 years, that Peter's been told, if you drink again, you might die. But this, I would say, was the time where I actually believed it. They properly kind of jaundiced him, didn't they? They gave him the shakes. And, I don't know, because Chris Gascoigne isn't... he's not out there on social media, or he doesn't do interviews or anything like that. It's like, could he be leaving? I don't know. That'd be monumental if they were to actually kill off Peter Barlow. But you know what? I think they actually could do it. But it's like, no, he's fine, really. And it felt like, okay, fine. Another nomination we've got for this is Aled and his cochlear implant, which... it came to a head with Frida in the the community centre, didn't it? And I'm sure that there would be lots of people wanting to put that particular scene into whatever category's going this year. But screw you, because we like Frida in the community centre scene. Sorry, that's very rude of me. But yeah, will Aled get the cochlear implant? This is life or death. This is, choosing the deaf community versus the hearing community. And I'm gonna kidnap him, stick him in the community centre, and he's gonna turn his back on his people and everything. But then when he was let out, it was like, yeah, he is gonna have the cochlear implant, and he's kind of okay now. And we haven't seen anything since, have we?
No.
He's had the operation. What's the consequences? Kind of nothing. Frida's just kind of skulked off and we've not seen her again.
Yeah, I was expecting something a bit more, but...
I don't know what particularly, but it felt like it was being built up to being something bigger.
Next thing is the police are racist.
Police are racist because they arrest James Bailey for driving erratically in a sports car over the cobbles. And yeah. I remember it towards the beginning of 2021. I think it might have been Lorna, who plays Aggie Lorna Nedlow, saying, there's going to be a big racism storyline in Coronation Street this year. And I thought, okay, well, the Stephen Lawrence story was, not huge. It felt like they could have done more with the Baileys and races, and maybe this is going to be the time to do it. But it still felt like they were holding back. I don't know what more they could have done. Well, it was just, there were a few times during the year that both Grace and Michael experienced racial profiling. Grace being locked up inside a Fresh Go security guards room. But then, it was all this big thing about, now, what was the arresting officer? Was he within his right to do it? Was he actually racist? Was he?
And we never really got to the bottom of it, did we?
No, we didn't
because he kind of came round and said sorry, but why did he say sorry?
Yeah.
And we never.
You had Craig saying, "I'm not going to dob you in, you're my mate," and then saying, "Oh, actually, maybe you were a bit naughty."
It was unfortunate because it didn't feel like. The thing is, lots of racism is subtle and insidious. Is that the right word? Where
I don't know. I'm thinking of a word and it's not that, but let's go with that.
Really invasive and pervasive and hard to tell. Is someone just being an arse to me, or are they racist? That's the thing. You do, it's subtle. A lot of it's subtle,
that policeman just
inadvertent,
or was he just doing his job?
But this one is one of these songs where you can say, well, you can't unless you can read his thoughts. You don't know whether this was a racist incident or not, right? I would have preferred them to have either tackled that properly and had just people microaggressions and to have that being tackled, or I would have preferred there to be just outright racism.
We didn't really get to know the character of the police officer. This is the thing.
This is what I'm going to say. They're not doing what they might have done in the past, which is to sacrifice a character and have them have a very bigoted and racist perspective that we might not have realised before now. And because they didn't use a proper character, it got completely buried. Nobody cares about this random policeman. If Craig had done it,
and there was a little bit of a, ooh, whose side am I on? Do I go for the side of righteousness, or do I stick with my mates at the police station?
That felt like it could have been more developed.
It just wasn't.
And there were no consequences for Craig. You would have expected Craig to have had somebody, write some horrible graffiti on his locker, or steal his boots, or.
Yeah, they could have gone there.
There could have been some bullying in the workplace, and some kind of retribution, because it feels like he was worrying about, well, what would the consequences be? And then there weren't any. So why was he worried? But I don't believe for 1 second that there isn't a culture of protecting your in-group in the police. I think that felt like a massive missed opportunity. And the unfortunate thing about it is that the Baileys, whenever they tackle one of these storylines, which are very important to talk about with those characters, and they miss the mark, then they have to either think, right, are we going to do this again, or are we going to because it feels like they're failing.
None of the Bailey stories, and they've had plenty of issue stories over the 2-3 years they've been in the programme, none of them have really felt they've been as big as they deserve to be.
It didn't feel powerful, and it didn't make me think, God, imagine, because it just felt stupid. Oh, he wasn't, he didn't know how to drive the car properly because he was buggering around in it, and then the guy came over and we don't know whether he was being racist or just being an arsehole. And it feels really bad. I feel guilty about saying it, but I just don't think that they were clear cut enough with it, and it would have been more powerful if there weren't all these question marks, because I think that wasn't the point of the story. Now, if the point of the story was, is that really the case or not, then it would have been interesting to talk about. But it felt like, they didn't actually do the job that they wanted to do with this. And again, back in the day, if you take a look at, say, Hayley, for example, and how she was treated being a trans woman, lots of characters that you're actually supposed to like, or not hate,
like Mike, like Les,
said horrible things and very bigoted things to her, and it helped you to explore what it's really like to be a trans woman and see things from her perspective, and it was more realistic too. Think about what happened with Todd when he came out, and then you had blimmin' Vera, who worked in the cafe, saying, I'm not going to serve you because you're gay. Like that, if watching that now is incredibly shocking, and it was shocking at the time, but they used Vera, you know, a very well-beloved character, and they were brave enough to put words in her mouth that made her look awful.
Finally, we've got the Faye in prison. No, it's fine. It's great. It doesn't mean it'll win, obviously. Faye in prison. Faye got sent to prison for 3 years, and that was a massive shocker, wasn't it? We were not expecting that when it came out last March, April, May. I can't remember when it was. But then she was out by the end of the year, and everything was okay. She's fine. She had a bit of a feet up moment, didn't she? And now, we can't include anything that's happened in this year as part of the discussion, really. But she's totally free now, isn't she? Although she does have her own problems that she's also dealing with. But that's not to do with hitting Adam over the head in the bistro last Christmas. So, which of these?
I think it's.
I don't think it's the police racism,
really?
Because I don't think there was a big enough build-up. I think for there to be a build-up to Nald, the story needs to be like, this is a really huge story and we're going to invest a lot of time into it.
Yeah,
and then there's no decent outcome.
The fact that Lorna, said this is going to be a big story and then it wasn't. And also, I think you have to acknowledge that this is an important thing for people. This is an important topic for people that they expected to be handled in a certain way. Nobody's watching Corrie and going, oh, I really want them to talk about what it's like to have MS in prison. You know, those kind of stories can be forgiven for perhaps going off the boil a little bit. No one was going, oh God, I wonder if Ronnie's really going to be Michael's dad. It wasn't, it was exciting, but nobody's like emotionally invested in it. Nobody's going, it's about time that Coronation Street did a story where somebody's not really their real dad,
I think, and I will go with the police racism story if you want to, because you let me have one of the other ones just recently. For me, Peter's liver transplant is the biggest one, because that was huge at the beginning of the year, and then he got it, and then the Seb storyline came along and kind of everybody forgot about Peter. And it felt like that was proper life and death, and we were being led to believe that, what's the consequences going to be? How's he going to be able to survive with his new liver, etc., etc., etc. And yeah, he got it, and then just like that was the end of that. But I will go with police racism. I think the
police racism storyline, because the thing about it as well is that it's disappointing, because it feels again like you only get a few cracks at this, and they've had time to get this right and they didn't.
Okay, next up we have got the Weatherfield Waterworks Award, and I mean this is really the Imran Habib Award, isn't it? This is in her honour of the character who just couldn't stop crying last year. Maybe they had good reason to cry, maybe they were just getting a bit of attention seeking, or the various reasons. Maybe they were just chopping up a lot of onions. But Weatherfield Waterworks, like Zidane, Weatherfield Waterworks is what we give the most the most prolific crier of 2021.
Now, because of the patriarchy and how toxic it is, men aren't really allowed to express their feelings by crying. So this is populated by women.
I did my best. I was looking through and saying, were there lots of crying men last year? And there really, really weren't.
I say that we should push for the Weatherfield Waterworks to be all men next year. I think we need the men to
get
cry
in touch with their feelings a little bit
of
more.
Frustration and maybe even joy.
Yeah. I think
maybe Imran will cry when his firstborn child appears in the world.
I think we maybe have had men in the category before. I don't know. I get a feeling like that maybe like, I don't know, David maybe, when he was going through the stuff with Josh, has probably had a bit of a weep. But anyway, our nominees this year, Leanne, we've already talked about the rough year that she's had last year. Dead son, other son on drugs, various Coronation Street things. It's enough to bring a tear to anybody's eye.
Yeah.
You got Abby, again, dead son.
Dead son is like the theme
of
the year.
Lots of crying last year. Lots of anger for sure, but also
a
lot of tears.
Yeah.
Kelly. Poor Kelly, accused of something that she didn't really do, but she kind of was still involved with it. But that doesn't matter because she didn't do that thing that she was actually being accused of.
She didn't technically break the law.
She didn't exactly, no. She just egged somebody on a little bit, but she didn't mean it because she was a little bit drunk.
She was drunk,
but she
and
got sent to prison
young.
Over Corrie, and that's gonna make you cry, isn't it? And then when they let her out, people were still mean to her. and she had to live on the streets. Poor Kelly. Fizz, she did a lot of crying last year, deservedly so, because that deputy dirty dog, Tyrone, cheated on...
He's
he left her, he didn't cheat particularly.
He's like, if Imran is the dirty dog, then Tyrone is like the filthy puppy.
The filthy puppy of he totally is, isn't he?
Yeah.
So Fizz had an awful lot to cry about last year because she thought that she had it made with Tyrone.
Well, she was going to marry him.
Yeah. Alia, she had a good old cry over
I can't remember what
we watched Hashim die, isn't it sad? And old Gran, don't disown me. Or did that happen this year? I don't really remember. I don't remember enough about Alia to give her the award, but I felt that at the time she was important enough to at least be nominated. Jenny, she's had a good old cry. She's had a sewer cry, hasn't she? I think that sewer was empty before she started. She opened the floodgates after Johnny died.
Yeah, she had a howl in the night, didn't she? That's pretty epic.
Probably. I don't remember how we actually saw her escape because we saw her throwing back her head in anguish, going, and Shona there just going,
shut up.
I think my theory is that she just cried and cried and cried until they floated to the surface.
Yeah, probably.
And that's how they got out of the sewer.
That would have happened in an anime.
And there were more tears at the funeral and everything like that. She also got a little bit drunk afterwards.
Why? Who wouldn't?
And we also got Emma, I think, has been sadly, as is prone to happen to some characters that everybody loves and is just cute and lovely and funny and heartwarming. She's been given some sad stories this year, hasn't she?
She's been recalled.
She has been a little bit. She's been pretty sad over 2021. And that is my nominee. So Gemma, any people there that kind of are sticking out for you? I'm kind of going for Abby again. She's had a good old... And I'm not saying she hasn't deserved it. Gosh, she's had a bad year. But, Sally Carman is the best crier, isn't she? She's somebody who, when she needs to crumble on the floor, it feels like her very soul has been ripped out through her mouth and there's just left with an empty shell of a mechanic down there.
Sad.
The moment she was told that Seb was died... utterly tragic. I think there was something during the court scene where she had to do it. She is a jolly good crier, and also, over Kelly getting away with it, I'm kind of leaning towards her. Also, Kelly herself does put up a good case. I don't think Fizz is necessarily. I think just tears when I think of Fizz in 2021. Yes, they were there, but she was also very, I'm gonna back my ideas up and show that Tyrone what he's missing, kind of thing. And Jenny, it was just pockets of tears. What do you reckon towards Abby or Kelly getting this one?
I don't. It's hard because I really don't like Kelly, and I don't want to give her an award. But it's not a good award, is it? I don't know. Is it?
It could be just someone who's really in touch with their emotions. But it kind of feels, I don't know, it kind of feels that it could be an award for saying, oh, shut up, pull yourself together, have a tissue, blow your nose and get on with life.
Get on with it.
Or it could just be somebody who literally just cried a lot because they had a lot to cry for.
Yeah. I think I'm going to defer to you because I don't have strong... I don't want to
be the person that says, come on,
I don't have strong emotions about it either way.
I don't particularly for this one. There is definitely no Rana among here.
Because this was originally wasn't it set up for Rana because of just how tiresome she was,
and I don't think there's anybody here who's tiresome cried.
I think Kelly is tiresome.
She is a bit. I'm more sympathetic towards Kelly's plight than you for sure. Okay, it's definitely between her and Abby, isn't it? I'm kind of forgetting about Leanne.
But also
Leanne's
Emma,
was more at the beginning of the year.
Emma should be in there too because I don't want that from Emma. I don't know who's told Coronation Street that what we want from Emma is despair and agony. Because we want a sweet, funny Emma who's hilarious and
that's a good time.
It's unfortunate, really, because in a way, she's a lot like what they wanted Kirk to be, like funny and kind of gormless,
kind of goofy, yeah.
And I can't imagine them putting who did I just say?
Kirk.
Through the emotional trauma.
No, sometimes they'll give Kirk a sad story.
It's like emotional pornography, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I feel it's quite exploitative almost in a way. And I don't want to watch Emma crying because there are loads of other characters who have got the same potential for trauma, but they're not funny. So why are we wasting somebody who's got great comic timing? Is it because they can't be bothered to think of anything funny to write? Because I feel like they're losing their ability to write funny lines recently.
Yeah. I still think that Abby, if you're deferring to me,
right,
our Mardy Mare is also the Weatherfield Waterworks. I feel so bad because I love her.
She's had a lot of emotion. She's been through things.
Yeah. Okay, right. Next up, Gemma. Proper soap award, this one. The No One Can Ever Know award. What is this?
This is the award when people keep secrets for no reason other than the drama.
The silliest secret award, basically.
Yeah,
this
and
is, isn't it? Yeah.
Opportunities for them to bring stuff up and they go into a room and say, I've got something to tell you, and then somebody says, but wait.
Yeah, some issues on soaps would just sort themselves out if only people would confess and come clean and tell the truth. And so these are my nominations for 2021. We've got right at the beginning of the year when Leanne was hermiting it up in Victoria Court, and Simon knew about that, and she was telling everybody that she was in France, wasn't she? But she was actually hidden away in her flat because of poor dead Ollie.
I always say that. That's Simon, my euphemism for I'm a bit depressed. I say I'm in France.
Simon knew about this and he didn't tell anybody, and I think that maybe if he'd got help to his poor old mum a bit sooner, maybe some of the other tragedy that befell the Barlow Battersby clan in 2021 might not have happened.
And also her lying about not being there, and didn't they end up with money troubles as well because she wouldn't say anything and Nick could have helped them, and then that's the reason why Simon ended up doing the drug stuff, because they needed cash to buy chickpeas or whatever.
So if only you'd told our Toya. Abby, I'd kind of half forgotten the details about this, but do you remember when Debbie confessed to murdering Ray? Because there was a great confrontation towards the beginning of the year, and then the next thing that we saw, it was between Debbie and Ray. The next thing we saw, Ray was gone, and Debbie tells Abby that she's killed him. She says, I bumped him off, but really he's in hiding, and her plan is to spirit him away to Turkey in exchange for his businesses. And she, before this, and I've got notes here, but I don't remember a whole lot about it. She'd found Abby unconscious on the bistro floor after Abby had had a confrontation with Ray over the recording that she made of him chatting away with the councilwoman about the building development or something. But basically, what it comes down to is Debbie knows where Ray is. I'm going to keep that a secret. Nobody can ever know. Please don't tell anybody that I'm a murderer. Silly. Leanne keeping quiet about Simon's drug dealing. So Peter, I know he was going through the ringer and everything with his kidney and everything. Not his kidney, his liver. But she knew that he was kind of being county lined a little bit, and he was working with Craig, and he was doing all of his Harvey, and he was doing all his nefarious deeds with Jacob and everything. And
be quite good if it turned out that Craig was actually secretly drugs kingpin.
Well, I mean, he's withheld information, and he's now he's freed a fake nail from Ted's sink, so anything goes now for him.
Yeah, correct.
So she didn't tell Peter that his son is kind of going into criminal underworld of Weatherfield, and maybe she should have, even though he was going through his own liver-related problems. Various points during the year, Nick had secret meetings with Sam without Natasha knowing, because she didn't want him to have anything to do with him. The whole thing with Shona's hit and run on Todd sort of midway through the year, which was one of your favourite moments of the year, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. Because she's still not allowed to drive because of, shot in a box. Mm-hmm. She hits Todd. We don't know who it is. David finds out about it because she tells him. He's arrested for it because he says, it was me that was driving. But then Todd ends up lying to get him off, and he goes off to leave Weatherfield. But yeah, basically the whole secret of I hit Todd, and I know he's all right really, but we mustn't let anybody know. Bit of a silly secret to keep. Tyrone not telling Alina that Hope is an arsonist, that was a bit of a big secret to keep, wasn't it? Because when she set fire to Alina in the flat, and Alina was like, I didn't know anything about the fact that she was a massive fire starter.
It's something that you might necessarily...
Probably should have...
You might not want to bring it up just out of nowhere, but if there's a fire involved and you know an arsonist, you might say, oh, I think I've
got some important information that I need to bring to the table here. Yeah. Imran's night with Abby, obviously massive secret there that is still ongoing. Those two are still the only two that know about it. But also the fact that he could have come clean, because he told Toya it was some random woman in a bar, didn't he?
Yep.
And I don't know, would Toya have been receptive to the idea that it was Abby at that point? I mean, if the floodgates were open and he's like, yeah, I have been unfaithful to you, and she was like, is there anything else that I need to know about this, Imran? No, definitely some rando in the bar. I just get a feeling that maybe if he'd said, yeah, it's Abby,
well, it would have all been over and done with.
It would have been over and done with by now.
And then she could have decided what she actually thinks, and you know, I think the thing is, she would have reacted in the same way because she was disgusted anyway, and then and I don't think she could have been more angry, but I'm not sure.
I
she let him stay there because of they needed to look after. At the end of the day, she kind of didn't have a choice about whether to let him stay with her or not, because they had to keep together because of Elsie. So if she had found out that it was Abby at the time, it probably would have taken her a bit longer to get over it, but I think she'd be over it by now.
I think the fact that she's kind of putting it down to just some random person in the bar, and I think it maybe would have felt like more of a betrayal if he'd slept with somebody that he knew.
Yeah, definitely. And also,
but even so, maybe,
like, it also doesn't make any sense. I know that it's part of the, you know, whatever the story, but they've been like at each other's throats, for very good reason.
Yeah. Curtis, and his "I'm not really sick actually" is a bit of a secret, isn't it? That's a bit of a lie he kept up for a fair amount of time.
It's the fact that Emma finds out,
that
and then
he's got
she's like, I can't tell anybody because he's abusing me, and if they find out he's abusing me, they won't let me get married.
Yeah, that was it. That was the silly secret there, wasn't it? Okay, I'm gonna
and then Amy was like, "You're
bonkers.
You're bonkers."
And then finally, another silly secret related to that storyline, when the charity money that Curtis sent through to sent through to the heart people, the mitochondrial people, when it finally got through, Steve stayed quiet about it because he wanted Curtis to be made out to be a massive wrong-un who steals money and is thieving. So, there my knowing. I feel that there isn't anything there that is obviously standing out. Some of them are silly secrets.
Well, I don't know. The thing is, it's because compared to the thing that's going on in Coronation Street at the moment, where loads of people know about somebody's death, and at the same time,
it kind of that
has to go into next year's Bobbins, and it has to be the combination of all three happening at once. That's the stupidest bit, the stupidest secret. But to me, I think Emma not telling everybody that Curtis had factitious disorder and waiting until after the wedding, but still going ahead with the wedding without really realising why she needed to rush it. Because originally the reason that she wanted to rush it was because she thought he was going to die at any minute. Then she found out he wasn't going to die at any minute, but she still rushed the wedding because she didn't want people to find out the true reason, because then they would have stopped her from marrying him. Yeah,
that does seem like it's quite a strong contender, but I also think that Tyrone knowing about Hope's arsonry and keeping it from Alina,
that was very stupid, because it's like, what do you trust this woman, and do you want her to be part of your life, or do you realise that this is just a stupid fling?
Can I defer to you for this one, because I'm not feeling massive strong vibes from any of these particularly.
These
as
all
much
feel
as I
quite...
rolled my eyes at all of them at the time.
Yeah, these aren't big crimes, are they? These
not really.
Not crimes against humanity like some of the other categories we've talked about. I think that Emma
sticking with Curtis despite knowing that he's been making his
like
stuff
knowing that as soon as she says anything, people will make her not marry him because of obvious, and she knows why.
Yeah. Fine. Okay, well, there we go. Emma and Curtis, you've got our No One Can Ever Know award.
Congratulations.
Fantastic.
And,
good job, guys.
Unfortunately, now you're going to have to have it every other weekend.
Next up, your daft apeth. This is the award for just when somebody's done something that was like, face palm me, I can't believe you've done that. Why on earth would you behave in that way? You utter pillock award. And I got quite a few nominations for this one. So, from the top, this is fairly chronological. There was a bit at the beginning of the year where Leanne was finding feathers around the house and thinking that it was little gifts from Ollie from heaven. And I know grief does strange things to people. And I think it would be bad to actually give it for this. But she almost got herself run over from chasing feathers across the street. And I think if she'd had a few more rational thoughts in her head, and I know she was going through a tragic time and everything, maybe she would have realised that they're just feathers. It turned out that it was Simon, wasn't it? He'd got a big pillowcase.
Well, she was right then, wasn't
them.
she? Because it was strange and uncanny, wasn't it? Like, oh, where are these feathers coming from? It's not like she was just going, oh, I've decided that flies represent Ollie.
She also, along with this story, went to see that, she was watching that Telemedium, wasn't she?
Yeah.
And I think, didn't she, I think that she might have got a medium or somebody in to chat with her for a little bit.
No, you're thinking of the phone in that she did.
No, I remember that, but I thought that there was also
I don't know
an actual medium that she brought in.
Well,
a guy,
you can't
maybe.
attack
I don't
people's
remember.
belief systems.
No, I know.
Okay,
way. I can't call her an apeth for that. I apologise.
It's like saying, did you know that Billy believes there's a big beardy man that lives in the sky? A daft apeth he is.
I know. Okay, Nick abandoning Sam to run off with Leanne was a bit of a daft apeth move, wasn't it? When she had to go into hiding, and after all this time he was trying to connect with his son. He's like, sorry, I may never see you again, but I'm off into witness protection. Don't worry, I'll be escaping out of it as much as I can.
And after also, blimmin' Natasha specifically went through like going, right, I'm gonna let you.
Yeah.
But I need to make it very clear to you.
You need to commit to your son. If you
run away and go on the run in witness protection, 5 minutes after I let you have a relationship, I'm going to be cross. And he did it anyway.
He did it anyway for the love of Leanne. I'm surprised Sam's forgiven him, to be honest. Tyrone going after Alina. Did he really think they had a future? Or was he just turned by a pretty head?
I mean, Alina also deserves a lambasting here because she should have known better herself. And splitting up a family and acting like she didn't do anything wrong. What a strumpet.
I think just as that story went on, Tyrone beautifully realised what a daft apeth he'd been with the stupid clothes that she was making him wear.
He started to realise
the portrait,
day by day,
the quotes on the wall. That was a silly move, wasn't it? You had it made with Fizz, and I know lots of Corrie viewers don't like Tyrone and Fizz together and think that he had a lucky escape, but
well, we'll find out, won't we?
She's half your age, mister. Asher going back to Corrie was a bit of a daft apeth thing to do. After everything that he had done to her, with the leaking her. Taking that naughty video of her and then providing it to others to share online. But despite all that, she and her haranguing her for sex the previous year in 2020.
You say sex like that lady. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do remember. 70s lady.
It was was it the BFI archives or something when they were interviewing her about the state of television, and she said, "I don't like all that sex."
Yes. Why go back to him? He's clearly a wrong un, Asher.
But wasn't it part of a trick?
No.
Or was that the other time?
No, that was afterwards.
Oh, okay.
She was actually, at the time of Seb's murder, she was in Nick and Leanne's flat with him, wasn't she?
Yeah, that's right, silly lady.
Billy hooking up with Todd, despite everything he knows about what a wrong un he is.
I know, but he was thinking, this guy's got a different head.
Maybe he's
Maybe
changed.
he's changed.
Maybe. Maybe he's had a Damascus moment and then he's turned into a new person completely. Sean falling for the MLM scam. I can't believe we've got this far into the Bobbins Awards for 2021 and we haven't even mentioned Sean and Ridian and the double glammy scam. But it was kind of obviously a pyramid scheme, wasn't it, of Sean? But you bought right into that hook, line and sinker. Johnny not taking his MS pills was a bit of a silly thing to do, and I know he wanted to see Aidan, but sorry, Aidan's gone, and they're there to make you better, Johnny. So you probably should have taken them a little bit earlier. I alluded to this earlier, but when Nick, Leanne, and Simon went into hiding from the witness protection program, they kept coming back for various reasons. Simon was escaping to go and see Peter in hospital with his liver, and Nick came back. I can't remember why. Was that when Sam was kidnapped by Sharon and Beardo Van Man? But they just couldn't stay away, could they? And that was a bit silly. And because there was a mad gunman after you.
Yeah, the mad gunman.
Todd allowing himself to be manipulated by Will, I thought was a bit silly because Todd is surely could have outsmarted him.
That was disappointing,
easily.
Yeah, because he's Yeah.
On the subject of Todd, and I've got to get this a mention somewhere, the scene where he's chasing around the coffin with Pat Phelan's ashes and then trips over and spills them everywhere. I thought that was daft. I don't even know. That could go in a number of categories, but I'm calling him daft in this one. Imran sleeping with Abby.
Daft in two different ways.
Daft. I cater to northern and southern listeners here.
That's the plight of the Midlanders, isn't it?
It is. I just switch between them.
We're always fighting north and south.
Us Coventry lot, we can say whatever we want. Grass, scone, scone, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever.
You guys just it's like north and south bickering over what do you call a roll, and then you Midlanders sneak into the fray and come out with the roll eating it.
Yeah. I've got Imran sleeping with Abby. Bit of a stupid move. I think he kind of regrets that. He got into Sabine's taxi after the court result. What's it called? The trial verdict.
The court result.
Sounds like the football, doesn't it? Des Lynam on the telly going, and in the Weatherfield Crown Court today. So he probably shouldn't have done that when he was going out with Toya. Laura in court when she kind of dropped Kelly in it, didn't she?
And
I can't remember. Yeah, and what did she do?
Well, she just had made a statement that she was scared of Kelly, and
she made Kelly out to be
violent and
that's
and
right.
evil.
That's
and
right.
then
So she made things an awful lot worse.
She was supposed to be the character witness, and she forgot that she made a statement to the police saying that she was scared of her own kid.
That was silly. You daft apeth.
Yeah.
Shona lowering herself into a clearly dangerous sinkhole/sewer to try and rescue the Connors. Brave, yes. Foolhardy, absolutely. But if she hadn't done it, maybe Jenny would be pushing up the daisies along with Johnny as well. The moment where Ruby took some of Curtis's pills. She's old enough.
No, kids are stupid.
They're not.
I
know many kids.
No,
I don't think any of them would have just taken a load of pills that happened to be on the side.
I disagree with you. Children do bizarre things. I've been a child. Some of the stuff I did when I was a kid, it's like, why did you? I don't even understand.
Why did you eat that grass,
Why
Gemma?
did you? Why did you? Because it was funny at the time.
Another daft apeth move. I'm still going. We're nearly at the end of this one, but come on, some people have been very silly this year. Although Daniel isn't a massive pedo man, he did do some things that might have left
compromised his position
as a teacher in his first term of being one. So giving Summer a lift home, maybe touching her arm during the ice ball,
giving her a special chocolate bar so that her feet don't fall off,
letting her come into his flat to do babysitting I'm sure that he let her and someone else have some time in his flat once. I think if he looks back on it, he's going to go, yeah, I kind of can see why Max had some evidence against me there.
Yeah.
I maybe need to be a bit more careful from now on. Will he learn a lesson? I don't know. And final daft apeth moment. George thinking there was absolutely nothing wrong and it was actually quite a good idea, of buying Eileen a coffin and funeral plan for Christmas, when clearly nobody in their right mind would want that, and I think a funeral director would probably realise this.
Because okay, right. I know it's morbid, and the joke's supposed to be that she wouldn't want to confront her mortality, and it's inappropriate. But apart from anything else, a funeral and a coffin is the one thing you don't have to buy yourself.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not worried about it. It's not my problem. Someone else is going to have to deal with that when I die. I don't care. Find the money somewhere, sell my handbags. It's not my problem. Once I'm dead, I don't need my handbags, but I do need a coffin.
So when you get old enough to be in the Sun Life Over 50s plan, it's like that, stuff like that.
Screw that. I'm going to let my non-existent children take care of this.
Okay, so, awful lot of apiths there, Gemma.
Yeah, I know.
Daft,
what's a collection?
What's
a collective noun for apiths?
A
chumbling of apiths.
Chumbling of apiths, perfect. Okay, there are some there that we can straight away say, no, it's not too bad, really.
I think Leanne can be excused. I think that
some characters had reasons.
Johnny not taking his pills. I think we had... The thing is, some of these, the reasons were given for the behaviour, and at least they had a reason. Some of them... They don't have a reason at all. It's just pure stupidity, isn't it?
I mean, I felt quite strongly about the coffin thing.
Yeah,
but
I think
also,
it's the coffin.
I think that Daniel and what his behaviour around Summer was clearly very sus. And surely he was intelligent enough, and he's literally just come out of his training where he would have been told, Don't do
any of these
Don't put
things.
yourself in a compromising position with a child.
Especially...
Don't be alone in a room with a girl, which I know he finds it hard because there's only one member of his English class. He hasn't noticed this yet.
I think...
and I know he's just trying to be a nice guy and everything. But...
I don't... Because when you're a teacher, do you do any secondary stuff, or do you have to pick primary straight off the bat?
No, I don't think so. I think he would have been just training for secondary teaching.
So I think also if you're a secondary teacher, this would have been drilled into even more. Especially how easily teens have crushes on people. Yes. And he did everything he could. And he's a hunky, suave
guy. Look at that amazing quiff he's got. Surely.
Yeah, do you think there's like a special...
turn many a girl head.
There's a special class for like... making sure you don't get yourself caught in stupid situations, and only the handsome ones get invited to it.
Sorry, Bob, you don't need to come to this class.
It's okay, you can skip this one. I don't think it's going to be relevant.
I'm also thinking that Tyrone going after Alina is a strong contender for the Daft Apith Award. He seriously thought that his perfect life was shacked up with some little Romanian floozy.
Well, the thing
is, clearly he just saw as a... I don't know what he thought he was getting out of it, apart from a nice bit of arm candy.
The thing is also that he never put a single thought into Alina as a person before he
didn't know about what the name of a village was.
He didn't even know where she lives. He didn't ask her any questions about anything. There was something to do with a Romanian dinner, but was it her that made it for him? I can't remember, or did he make it for her?
I don't remember,
but
nice bit of tripe.
I just don't think that he thought anything more about her personality than, oh, she's nice to me and she's pretty. I don't think he ever asked her what her ambitions were or what she was like as a kid.
And I think that all of this combines to make this the daftest Apith, because he made a big life decision,
but she still got the consequences.
Yeah,
and it wasn't just his life pregnant? As well. It wasn't just his life. He kind of ruined Fizz's life.
Yeah.
And the kids, he didn't even think about breaking up their family home.
And, I mean, George should have known. He really, really should have known not to get Eileen a coffin. Daniel, can we blame the naivety of youth? And he was just trying to be helpful.
He's so oblivious to his charms. But it's not his fault. He's handsome, and devastatingly so. But
Tyrone and Alina just had a disaster all over it. And I just loved how throughout the story... it dawned on him what a massive, massive mistake.
But the thing is, though, I can argue back here that Coronation Street knew that he was being stupid and he's been punished, and he was kind of forced to come to terms with how stupid he has been. Whereas, like, George buying Eileen a coffin, where did that even, like, what was the... You can see how Tyrone got led astray by how close they got and how grateful Alina was for him helping her, and how he became the centre of her universe, etc., etc. Whereas, like you said earlier, why would somebody who works in the funeral industry ever think that what they're selling is what everyone wants for Christmas?
Yeah.
No, there's no like big. Nobody's ever sat down and gone, right, funeral directors, we need to drum up business here because people just aren't dying like they used to, and we've got to market ourselves in a different and unique way. What existing market can we
think they want
can we
coffins.
piggyback off of? The Christmas one. Everybody loves Christmas, so if we associate funerals with Christmas, people will probably even want to come to more funerals.
Are you erring to? Are you going towards that one rather than the Tyrone
I think it
or
is
the
because
Daniel?
it was also why have you done this again? And
The Christmas lols.
And George and Eileen have just been a pair of apaths all the way through their relationship. If any couple deserved to be murdered for being ridiculous, it's them. I don't know why I said that, but they just feel like.
Tell you what, if Eileen gets murdered now, she's got herself set, hasn't she?
Yeah, well, this is my
Nice
question.
mahogany finish.
Has he taken it all back, or does she get a gift on top of the funeral?
I don't remember. I can't remember how this ended.
And also, I don't know what the age difference is between George and Eileen, but I assume he's either older or they're the same age. Who's going to do this funeral?
Yeah, good point.
Is he imagining himself presiding over Eileen's funeral with a smile on his face going, I paid for this 20 years ago.
Nice, isn't it?
Quids in.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Got all the extras and everything.
In the congregation. Are we going for that then? Are we going George buying Eileen a coffin?
It's because of
the
pair of them just been vile a lot of the time to each other.
I just don't. It doesn't feel to me like it has enough consequences, and maybe to be a daft ape, they need to do something stupid that has got massive ramifications.
But that's my point, though. That's my point. The fact that it had no ramifications means that it basically made a stupid storyline for absolutely no reason.
But we're not judging the storyline here. We're judging the actions that a character
All right, then
took.
give it to Tyrone.
No. We can call it a tie. And that's not
Tyrone.
a pun.
Just give it to Tyrone.
Fine. Tyrone and Alina, there you go. Daniel, you had a lucky escape there. Right.
Daniel really did.
Next up, Gemma, what have we got?
The Character Assassination Award for the person who has done a 180 on being good, and then Coronation Street conspires to ruin them through various stupid things that don't make any sense.
Yeah, now some people might argue that some of these characters were never good, or that they're glad to see them.
Like they were always had their cards marked, and they're glad that finally the show's admitting that they were wrong on all along.
Exactly. So I have got here Tyrone, who was just a nice stand-up father, solid, reliable, dependable, etc., etc. Nice guy. Completely ruined by his fling with Alina, and how on earth can he ever go back to the lovely family he had after abandoning them like that. Alina, I think, had a bit of a character assassination because she was kind of made out to be a little bit minxy,
bit calculating,
little bit calculating. She wasn't like proper villain or anything, was she? But she was a really
very
nice,
careless.
Lovely,
about
sympathetic, as in I feel sympathy for her character during the nail bar saga with Seb and the slavery and everything, and they kind of did a bit of a number on her, didn't they, by making her out to be the Scarlet Woman. Jenny got character assassinated just a little bit in my mind when she dumped Johnny for Ronnie last spring. Imran, possible character assassination, maybe possibly to be saved, but I always thought that he was It really, really is. I always kind of saw him as a very stand-up.
He's like the moral of the backbone,
yeah, exactly. He is.
Like
he's the force for right. He's not like Craig, who is only just this week apparently realised he's a bit of a dodgy copper. Imran has been, proper, force for good in the street.
Righteous.
But now he's slept with Abby, and his status as Corrie good guy is severely
down the toilet.
It's hanging in the balance here. Abby's had a bit of a character assassination because lots of people have really turned against her this year, haven't they? And some people, like you said earlier, who never liked her in the first place, are now coming out the woodwork.
I'm finally glad
I said it all along.
Come out and say.
Yeah, but just having her hounding Kelly incessantly when she should have just said, "I'm the grown-up here. I don't think I can ever, forgive you for what you've done, but I'm going to let it drop." She just couldn't. She is, dog with a bone here, isn't she? And I think she can be turned round because she is an awful lot of fun, is Abby, I would say. But
I think she's over it now.
I hope so.
Yeah.
And Roy as well, with his lying to get Nina off of or out of trouble for knowing about the gun that was brought into the street to kill Natasha. He told barefaced lies to the police, went completely against his moral code, and he felt so bad about it that he went off to Peru. For a little bit.
See, I thought that was more character development for Roy, where he's learned the power of a white lie.
A bit like Crichton on Red Dwarf when he went through that phase.
Yeah. I think, I don't know, I think it makes him a better person to realise that the truth sometimes hurts. But I don't know whether Coronation Street's really...
Because we saw it was back in the early days. We've spoken about this relatively recently on the podcast. He was quite blunt about some of the things he was saying about Hayley, I don't see you as a true woman or something. Exactly, I can't remember the exact wording.
And he you asked me and I have to tell you the truth.
So I think a few other viewers got more incensed by Roy's lying than I did. I thought it was silly having him disappearing off to Peru, but that's for another category in this awards. I think that Roy has still come out of this whole debacle intact pretty much as a character.
I don't think
about him differently now.
No, I don't. I think the worst thing he's done recently is thrashing Sam at chess, but that's this month.
Yeah. I'm kind of leaning towards Tyrone here.
I really am as well, because Tyrone was so wholesome.
Yes, that's right. He was.
And a family man who cared about his girls and his girlfriend. And Fizz and Tyrone weren't showy. They didn't have big romantic gestures, and they weren't the most exciting couple. But they were probably more of a
really solid.
I think people could see themselves in their relationship more than any other relationship on Corrie. They felt very real.
Yeah.
In the same way that we kind of look at Toya and Imran as kind of I guess that's what we're more like. If you have a family, I can imagine you thinking, yeah, that's what we're like in my house, and then he throws it all away.
I think, and I've always thought Alan Household has been a really good actor, and he doesn't get given very many stories, but he like the Kirsty story 8-9 years ago showed what a great job he is, what a great actor in a performance. He can pull out the bag when he needs to, and he's just lovely. And he's not exciting or naughty or anything like that, but you don't want characters all to be like that. And I just think that he's been tainted by this, and I think we are very, very slowly edging back towards him and Fizz getting together, aren't we?
Yeah.
I thought it was going to happen at Christmas. I was wrong. So I think he can come through this, but he'll always have that black mark against him.
Yeah.
That they didn't need to have. Tyrone's always been lovable right from the start because of his terrible upbringing with Jackie, and having him underneath Jack and Vera's wing, it just made you love him. And I think that Jack and Vera would be looking down on him and shaking their heads at his antics over the past 12 months. So Tyrone it is then for character assassination of 2021. We have got our penultimate award now. That's right, we're nearly there, and I said I didn't want it to be 2.25 hours, and we're rapidly approaching that. But we are next celebrating the Rovers Rubbish Return Award, which is where we look at the characters that made a comeback to Corrie in 2021, but it wasn't all it was cracked up to be. And every year I think, I wonder who has come back, who's made a comeback, and it's always more than I think. And you start a year thinking, oh, you know, Curly's going to come back or Spider's going to come back, and none of the big names ever do. But yeah, they like to bring back characters. So last year, Gemma, who did we have making a triumphant return to the cobbles?
Sharon
Bentley.
I don't know why she's on this list, because I think a lot of people really liked her.
Oh, I'm just literally, these are the characters, these are the comeback characters, and we can completely wipe out some of them.
These aren't all rubbish, these are just people that returned.
Yes.
Okay, right. Sharon, Izzy.
If you can count that, I mean, she's for very obvious reasons not been able to be in Coronation Street for a good while, but she made her comeback, didn't she, via the medium of Zoom?
Yeah, I thought it was brilliant.
Carol, Sean's homeless mate. Remember her? She turned up to be scammed in the Double Glammy story, just to make Sean feel really bad about himself.
Jess, who is the cop that trained Craig originally.
Yeah, she was around in his phase when he says, I'm going to be attached to the CID for a bit, and I think they've kind of quietly forgotten about that. And I think she was around for some of the racism story as well. But yeah, I counted that as a comeback, but I think probably many viewers would be forgiven for not even remembering her when she did show up again.
Frida,
yes.
Tommy
Orpington, yeah, with that scene, that memorable scene with Nina and him and Corrie in Chariot Square.
Right, trying to drum up business for his protege. Zidane.
Yes.
Claudia.
Yes, for Norris's funeral we saw Claudia. That was a lovely return.
I was talking again with my mum and dad about Rula Lenska when we went to the allotment at the weekend, because they spontaneously started talking about the Southampton Balloon Festival that we used to have here, and how Rula Lenska landed on the veracity next to the house and talking about it. And I was like, I met Rula Lenska and I nearly brought it up with her and I didn't. And they were like, oh, you should do. And I was like, yeah, maybe if I ever meet her again, I'm gonna tell her.
Oh, I think that this is a brief return, and I don't think we're going to see her again.
And finally, Charlie and Lexi, the two siblings.
Christmas cherubs. So some of these we can cross straight off the list because their returns weren't rubbish.
Yeah.
Sharon, sorry, to me that was the biggest return of the year. I absolutely love Sharon in her previous incarnations. I was a bit disappointed that they took her down the villainous route, and but on the whole, I think that she was a success story for Corrie in 2021. I don't think we can include people like Carol or Jess there, or even Tommy O, because I don't think that people had expectations for them. Claudia is just glorious, and I can't remember anything she particularly did, but just showing up is enough for me.
You didn't put Blue Merrick in there.
Oh no, I didn't put Blue in. I did not put.
She could have been in there.
What's the character called? Jenny Reese. She could have been.
But she's not, so I have to deal with it.
To me, and Frida, sorry, you know what I think about Frida. Bloody love her, and I love the community centre scene. So, to everybody who thinks it's Frida, you make your own Bobbins Awards.
You don't need to be so aggressive.
I'm aggressively protective over Frida and that scene. Sorry, she's not getting the Rovers Rubbish Return Award. To me, it's between Zidane and Charlie and Lexi, which is also a bit of a build up to Nalt as well, wasn't it? But I mean,
that was, and also, can I say that was also a what was the story? What's the storyline where it doesn't make any sense? Do we even have that?
Give over.
I think it was a give over.
They
were
a bit give over-ish, weren't they? I can't believe I forgot them.
How can you really have a story where children get dumped? You know, the parents come back, presumably from Australia at Christmas, to bring their kids back to like, why are they back at Christmas? To meet their family and friends, surely. And then on Christmas Day, they just dump the kids on someone else.
I know. Utterly ridiculous. But their return was literally, they had 3 scenes? They lent Phil a water gun so that he could have that silly fight with Tyrone in the street. They played a bit of board games over a music montage. They played some football with Jack outside the factory, and that was it. And having the siblings back could have been this beautiful moment for Abby. And yes, they had a lovely old hug, but there was no scene where they kind of talked about Seb, or where Abby just had a lovely serious conversation with them. It was nothing.
For all we know, actually, Abby got high on Christmas and just imagined this happened.
Quite possibly. But I think, there's not so much expectations with Charlie and Lexi, but I would like to point out that was a bit rubbish. It's got to be Zidane, hasn't it?
It's
really?
Zidane. It's like
Zidane.
hands down Zidane. Because when Zidane left, he left under a cloud, and we got defensive of him because we didn't think he'd done anything wrong.
No.
His major crime was he stood in the way of love's
True
young
love.
dream.
#Khan.
When he was married, he had the audacity to be married to a straight woman who fell in love with another woman and decided that she was gay and she didn't want to be married to him anymore. And he tried to salvage his pride by taking money from her parents to stay together, and then he just ended up buggering off. And we thought he got a lot of criticism when he was justified to be quite upset about what happened because he didn't do anything wrong.
No.
He had no idea that this was going to happen. And he was right to be upset when, your wife doesn't want to be with you anymore, for whatever reason that might be.
And he was always a bit of a misery,
wasn't he? He was always a misery guts, but I think we kind of forgot that.
Yeah.
Because we got defensive of him. And now he's come back.
He's barely cracked a smile. There were a couple of scenes when he was doing a bit of painting with Miriam around Christmas time. Was it? It was before Christmas. But it's just been a massive, can you go back away again,
It
Zidane?
feels like he doesn't know what happiness is.
Yeah, literally. They had a real chance. He was never going to, be a brilliant character, but sadly for him, he was tied up with a silly money laundering story, which didn't help. He's just been an utter fun drain, hasn't he? And the less said about that haircut, the better. Had to mention it.
Oh yeah, there's no award for the worst haircut.
Sorry,
I think a lot of the lads would be in that category this year. I think the girls are doing pretty well with their hair.
Do you reckon?
I think you know how the 80s is widely regarded as a poor decade for women's hair. I think this is the decade for bad man's haircuts.
There were two massive announcements of character returns this year. Sharon and Zidane. They're the two characters that had a lot to prove. And actually, Sharon's was pretty triumphant. Didn't go quite the way that I wanted. She had an Avett moment. She was a lot of fun.
Yep.
Zidane, fun is not a word I would
Zidane
use
doesn't even
in
know
any way to
that
describe
fun is
him.
a word that exists.
No, he's really
It's not
not.
like it doesn't even feel like he's like morally opposed to fun or happiness. It's like he doesn't have a clue that such concepts exist in the world.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, Zidane.
No, you're rubbish.
A bit rubbish this year, yeah.
Cheer up.
Finally. And this feels bad because in our Conversation Street Awards, we build up to the That's Champion Award, which is like the best, the biggest culmination of all the great stories of the year. Whereas here, we don't have that. We just got the Weatherfield Wayfarer Award, which is fine, but it's no massive climax, is it? But in any case, here we go. The Weatherfield Wayfarer Award is what we give to a character who has got the silliest reason to be away from the street for a long time. And in this period of block filming and everything, you can sometimes go weeks or even months before seeing characters. But sometimes they like to try and explain it, don't they? And let's see what we've got this year. So at the beginning of 2021, Steve bogged off for a little while. I can't remember what was going on with Simon Gregson or whether we even knew, but this was just after Ollie died, and he went off to climb some mountains or something somewhere, didn't he?
Yeah.
And that was unusual. Why is he absent here? Aggie was away for an awful lot at the beginning of the year. She was off staying with her auntie with coronavirus, wasn't she? Lorna couldn't be on the programme. We got some actually quite nice scenes that I really enjoyed with her on the FaceTime with Ed. But staying with somebody with coronavirus, is that a silly reason? I don't know, maybe not. Ken went to Southampton for an inordinate amount of time. I mean, it's a great place. I mean, it's been my home for the past 20 years or so. Gemma doesn't ever want to leave.
No, I'm not gonna leave.
We've got shopping centres. We've got
Seven Bone. We had the first Seven Bone on the south coast. How about that?
We've got the cruise ships here, just on the edge of the New Forest.
We've got a Titanic museum.
We do. We've got plenty, but I don't think it's quite enough to have made Ken want to leave Weatherfield for quite that long time.
There's a really
where
nice
all the action
Indian
is.
restaurant up the road.
Yeah, and we're here, of course.
Oh yeah.
Who can forget that?
And we've got 3 Lidls. And 2 Aldis.
But they said that he was going to see an old teacher friend, and he was just there for a very long time. Of course, this is when Bill Roach had COVID.
Who's that one that he was shagging, the teacher? Was it Wendy?
Wendy Flaming Crows?
Is that where she lives now?
Maybe. Wendy
Papadopoulos lives in Bassett.
Gail going to Thailand again. She has a heart attack, and then she decides,
stupid.
I'm fed up of you plats not appreciating me, so I'm off to Thailand again. I'm going to come back with a plait in my hair. That was rather silly. Evelyn went backpacking with James for a good period of time this autumn. The fact that Gail and Audrey were in London during the Coronation Street was a bit odd, I thought. And finally, Roy going to Peru for a bit. And
in a snit.
Basically in a snit. And he was away for, 6 weeks or so,
Well,
maybe?
This is the thing. I think this wins because it wasn't just the show. It was off the show. They made a big song and dance about him leaving, and they would have known how long he would have been off screen for.
This is also another... It could have been a nomination for the Build Up to Nout Award, couldn't it, actually?
Because... he was gone, like you've just said, he wasn't gone long enough that you would have even noticed, actually, that he wasn't in the show.
I could understand him being utterly disgusted with himself for lying to the police over this whole gun thing, but they didn't do it by halves, did they? They didn't just say, well, he's gone down to Hastings where his mum used to live, or he's gone off on... I don't know, a rambling tour of the railways of the UK or whatever. They literally said, no, let's not do that. Let's have him go to South America, as you do.
And it's not like,
it's silly enough when Emily did it.
You can't even do that, surely, now. I don't think freely travelling around is very limited. And I don't think Peru's gagging for middle-aged men to come and help them doing whatever he supposedly did.
Making a corned beef hash.
Yeah, we don't need... curries for $2.95.
Okay, well there we go. I think that's made a bit of a hash.
And it was also the fact that they had David Nielsen coming out and saying, "Oh, maybe I'll come back one day."
Yeah, I know.
Don't do such obvious misdirection. And when he came back on Christmas Day, it just felt like an anticlimax.
Yeah,
because
not been long
they
enough.
wanted some big heartwarming reunion on Christmas Day, and the only way they could think of doing it was to take somebody away.
I know.
That doesn't
make sense.
Follow. It would have made a lot more sense.
I think my runner-up in this category is Gail going to Thailand again. Like, okay, love, whatever.
I know, it makes me think that she's got some kind of fancy boy that lives there.
Utterly nuts.
And he's kind of extorting her for cash.
So that is it. That is our Bobbins Awards for 2021. Let's just have a roll down and see if we can
remember
who. So do one new one. We gave to Leo, didn't we? Okay. Jenny's beau. Yeah. We've got the Grey Hoodie Award was obviously Hashim. As a terrible character. Mardy Mare we gave to the lovely Abby for not being able to let Kelly's stuff drop. And Dirty Dog, lovely Imran got that one for dropping his jaws for said Mardy Mare Abby. The Give Over Award we ended up giving to basically everything that happened in Coronation Street. As fun as it was for us to watch, you did have to suspend disbelief just a little bit. Can Do Something. Did that go to Tracy in the end?
Yeah, I think it did.
Tracy, that was my pick, I think, because I want to see Tracy back in the forefront of the programme in 2022. The Build Up to Nout Award went to the police racism and the fact that they just didn't give it enough time for what it actually deserved as a very serious issue. Weatherfield Waterworks went to Mardy Mare Abbey. So double win for her this year. The No One Can Ever Know Award. What did
Curtis.
Oh yeah, Curtis.
Emma
keeping Curtis's secret about him having factitious disorder. Daft Apeth was Tyrone thinking that he could make a life with Alina and leaving the lovely time he was having with Fizz. And Hope and Ruby. Character assassination, also Tyrone. They really did a number on him this year. The Rovers' rubbish return goes to old Lego hair himself, Zidane. And finally, Roy Cropper going off to Peru for a couple of weeks gets our Weatherfield Wayfarer Award for just the silliest absence from the show.
There we go.
Congratulations, guys!
Hooray! I hope that everybody who's in the show, who's listening, was wearing their best tuxes and evening gowns. We need acceptance speeches.
I hope that you're not too upset about winning either, because as we said at the top of the show, we do like Coronation Street, really.
It's all a bit of fun.
We just like to have a bit of a moan. I do feel a little bit bad this year because I gave more moaning last year to Coronation Street than I usually do. I didn't happen to feel that 2021 was a vintage year by any sense of the wording, really. So it feels kind of bad to stick the boot in further. If it had been a brilliant year and just finding the not so great bits, fine. But it's like, yeah, come on. And also just tied in with what we've been saying about it the last couple of weeks, where it's not been its best. But never mind. I certainly feel a sense of catharsis after ranting for the last 2 hours. What about you?
I feel like we got some stuff off our chest
here,
didn't we?
Absolutely did get stuff off our chest. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed it. I hope that 2 hours worth of moaning just meant that you could put some issues to rest, and we can look forward with a sense of positivity and hope for 2022.
But I think also that even if your pick didn't win the category that you wanted it to, the fact that we bring up this stuff probably vindicates your beliefs.
I want to know how many people are listening going, oh gosh, yeah. How many times did we get that reaction from our listeners? I hope some. Because we do like to dredge up the things that Corrie would wish we forget about.
It's better that than people going, oh God, what a pair of moaners.
But if we have forgotten about things, if there are some people that you're shouting at your earphones, why didn't you mention such and such or so and so, please do write in, let us know. I do my best to draw together my lists over the course of the year, but I'm sure there are some moments, some scenes, some stories, some characters and developments and whatever that I haven't put in the nominees list, so do write in and let us know. But with that, I think we're done. We're going to have our dinner. I don't know what we're going to have now. We can have I saw you having a bit of a takeaway menu earlier. But we'll find out. I'm going to get this all edited together and put out tonight because I know people are looking forward to it. We're going to go now. We're going to watch tonight's Coronation Street and then we're going to go to bed. So, ta-ra from me. Ta-ra from Gemma. Say ta-ra.
Ta-ra.
Ta-ra. And we'll be back with our normal Conversation Street regular episode this weekend. Not that long, couple of days. Look forward to it.
But are we doing it on...
But then we'll do it on Friday anyway.
Oh God, do we have to?
Oh, we'll see. We'll see how things go. I'm not doing it tomorrow because it's parents' evening.
I know you're not doing it tomorrow because it's only just finished being on.
We'll see what happens, won't we?
Anyway,
goodbye.
Bye.
And see you next time. Ta-ra.